Hey peeps, Pajji here from GameStun, back with another video for you guys. Now today I want to talk about my charge blade build and why I do tend to think this is one of the strongest builds in the game, if not the strongest charge blade build in the game for elemental charge blade. Now to understand this, first I want to kind of talk about elemental cap. So your elemental cap is pretty much the highest damage that your elemental weapon can hit, and it kind of depends on the elemental reinforcement bonuses you have on your weapon. So for instance, if you can see here, I have 3 elemental bonuses, right? So my elemental cap for this weapon is going to be 1311. Now if you have a weapon with only 2 elemental reinforcements, it's about 1170 something, right? Your elemental cap. But for 3 or more, it's going to be more than 1300. Now in order to hit this consistently without taking damage yourself, you're going to have to wear 4 pieces of Gogmasius. You're going to have burst at level 3 at least, and you're going to have a skill that triggers coalescence. Now there are 2 skills that can actually trigger it, and that's going to be Mizutsune's powers or Gormagala's theory, because they will trigger it and will activate coalescence, and that will give you a 30% increase in elemental damage. Now I'm kind of going to show you here what happens if I, for instance, go to Luke here and I will activate coalescence and Gogma Apocalypse. I'm not going to activate elemental absorption because this skill only activates if you're taking damage. And as you can see, I'm hitting 1256 here, and when I start hitting the dummy here, I'm at my cap. You can see it's orange there at the right side. It was 1311. So that's my elemental cap. Now if I change my weapon to my dragon elemental weapon, for instance, that only has 2 reinforcements, start hitting the dummy here, and it's 1173. Now I'm gonna change my build to a build that only has 2 Gogmasius pieces on. Let's activate it again here. This also has Gormagala's tyranny on it, and it has the Mizutsune's powers, and it only has 1 burst. And you can see I'm at 1207. So for instance, if you only have 1 burst and you only are wearing like 2 pieces of Gogmasius, so I have it on my chest piece and I have it on my weapon, then I'm not hitting my cap right there. Now this is a big difference right in damage right here, because as you can see, for instance here, elemental discharge follow-up is hitting for 282. And my discharge is hitting for 659. And the one with the 4 piece is for 306.8. And my seed, it's for 715. So you can see it's already a big damage loss. If I, for instance, would go with only burst 1 and wearing 2 pieces of Gogmasius, right? Now what you also can try and do here, for instance, if I would go over here and I would wear a build, for instance, that has burst 5 but only has 2 pieces of Gogmasius, so Gogma Apocalypse on it. I'm hitting for 301. And my explosions to 702, and my max is 1287. So that means I'm not hitting my elemental cap here either. I am getting very close though, but that's with 3 elemental reinforcements. So if you have, for instance, the perfect rolled one, so you want to have 4 elemental reinforcements, you're even losing more damage, right? If you have one with 4. So ideally, what you want to have is 4 pieces of Gogmasius on your gear and Gormagala's tyranny or Mizutsune powers. But Mizutsune powers is better because it's more consistent, so you have more uptime. You can have almost about like 90 to 95% uptime that you're hitting your elemental cap, while as with Gormagala's Tyranny it only activates 60% of the time. So only 60% of the time you can hit your cap consistently if you're not getting hit a lot, right? Now if you're for instance using a weapon that only has 2 elemental reinforces, then you can hit the cap if you're only wearing 2 pieces of Gogmesius and you have burst like at level 3, 4 or 5, right? So the thing is, what you pretty much want to have is like at least 3 elemental resources on your weapons, on your charge blades. So you pretty much want to wear the 4 piece, right? Because the other way you can actually get the cap is getting elemental absorption, or for dragging getting elemental conversion. But we kind of don't want to count on that. So with that in head, I do tend to think that the 4 piece set bonus is going to be better than the 2 set bonus. Now to kind of show you guys how it actually works. So Mizutsune powers, for instance, works like this, right? If you roll a couple of times, you can see there's a little meter in the top left corner that's counting down. Now once this meter is finished, you're gonna get your elemental buffs here from Coalescence, because Coalescence is gonna trigger and you're gonna get the increased 30% elemental damage. So when it counts down, you pretty much need to roll again a couple of times, and the other timer will also start to count down. Now you can see your elemental damage is already buffed here, so you have the 1142. This is still the 2 set bonus though I'm wearing here, but with Mizutsune powers. And you can see the other counter is counting down at 9 seconds and the other one at 11. But when the other one finishes, you're gonna see my elemental bonus is gonna disappear. And only 2 seconds later I'm already gonna get the buff back. So that's why Mizutsune powers is way more consistent and easier to control when it's actually active, because with Gormagala's Tyranny it is kind of tedious, because Apocalypse also doesn't have 100% uptime, right? It can trigger when the monster becomes enraged, but it can only trigger after that every 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it lasts for 2 minutes. So you always have like an invulnerability window from 30 seconds. So for instance, if your Gormagala's Tyranny is also active in those 30 seconds, you're even losing more uptime of the skill. That's why I do tend to think that Mizutsune's powers is a little bit better than Gormagala's Tyranny for this weapon. The good thing about Gormagala's Tyranny though is if you're also wearing the same decorations in there, you're getting an increased 25% affinity right there. But yeah, for me, just to have more control over it, and because it has more uptime, the best build that I tend to think to be in the game is this one right here. So it's gonna be this one right here. It has 4 pieces of Gogmesius here. I only get the set bonus on my weapon, so it's also a really easy build to make because you only need Apocalypse on your weapon. Then I'm wearing the 3 pieces of Gogmesius, Rathalos Reefs, and the Mizutsune legs. So I can actually get Apocalypse, Rathalos Flare, and also Mizutsune powers. Now the things that I'm wearing on the build right here, for instance, is a Tenderizer Jewel, Protection, Tenderizer Phoenix, Chain, Phoenix, Fire Resistance, but you can choose what you put in there. Phoenix, Fire Resistance, Mighty, Protection, and the Talisman is a Rapid Morph 2 with Max Might 2 and a 2 and a 1. You can also go for Load Shells 2 with Maximum Might 2 and a 2 and a 1. It can also be Coalescence 2 you can have, or Max Might 1, Coalescence 1, but you also need the level 2 decoration slot right there. So it's not the hardest talent also to get in the game to actually make this build work. And then you're gonna have these skill sets right here. So Peak Performance 5, Burst 5, Weakness Exploit 3, Max Might 3, Divine Blessing 3, Fire Resistance 3, Coalescence 3, Adrenaline Rush 2, Elemental Absorption 2, Speed Eating, and Aquatic Positive Mobility. Now I don't have Counter Strike on here, but I do have Adrenaline Rush. So this is a build that is actually better if you're a really good player, because you're gonna get more damage if you evade, while his Counter Strike you need to get hit to actually get more damage. Like blocking doesn't even count, so if you block when the monster hits you, Counter Strike is not gonna activate. You really need to get knocked down before it activates, right? And also Elemental Absorption or Common Comfort Element, they only trigger when you actually take elemental damage. So it's not even when you get hit every time, you also need to get elemental elemental damage for it to trigger right there. That's why I do tend to think this is going to be one of the best builds, if not the best build in the game right here, because of the Rathalos Flare right there and the Mizutsune power that can easily trigger. So yeah, that was pretty much it for the video, peeps. If it was helpful in any ways, please do remember to leave a like and a sub. Keep yourself safe, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Laters.